Hey, welcome back to True-Moto-Resto, and on today's video we're putting new tires on the Honda Valkyrie right there. Okay, so it's time for new tires on the Valkyrie. I got the bike at the beginning of the year. It's a 2014. It had 4,400 kilometers on it when I got it, and more importantly, those are the original tires. So next year those tires will be 10 years old. Lots of tread on them, but they're still 10-year-old tires, so they need to come off as the rubber is starting to get a little hard. And the only tires that are available for that motorcycle that are radial tires are the Dunlops that are on it. And that size for radials from Dunlop is only available through Honda. And if you want to buy them from Honda, here in Canada, that's about $1,200, $1,200 taxes in for 2 tires. And that's just not going to happen. So a lot of guys are doing kind of the mixed tires, radial, rear, bias ply front. What I've elected to do, which seems to be a very popular choice, is I'm going with bias ply front and rear. They have the same load ratings as those tires, exactly the same size as the stock tires, and I'll show you the tires shortly that I'm putting on. But a lot of the Valkyrie guys are running these bias ply tires on it, and have had a lot of good luck with them, and they perform well. And as I said, they've got the same load rating, so I'm not concerned about that from a performance perspective. But yeah, who knew that 2 tires for this bike would, if you want the factory original radials, that would be $1,200 Canadian. That is absolute madness. Anyway, to the task at hand. So I'm actually not doing these tires myself. They're going to go to the guy that does my my regular tire changes. But what I got to do is get this 800-pound monster up off the ground so I can get the front and the rear wheel off. And the way I think I'm going to do that is, although it's kind of tied into the wheel chock at the front here at the moment, I want to take advantage of this drop tail. This center section here will come out. I have to pull that bar out of here. And so my idea here is I'm going to move that back probably so the center of the wheel is not right on the seam of that drop tail section as it is right now. I'm going to move it back probably about 10 inches, 8 to 10 inches back. And then in doing so, the front wheel obviously will be back closer to the trailing edge of that wheel chock. And then that'll make it a little easier to get the front wheel out, because right now in the wheel chock there's no way that wheel's coming out of there. So the plan will be to put this lift jack under here, under the front. I'll have to shim it with some wood. And then under the back, where the center stand mounting position is, so right here, I'm going to put a block of wood across here, which is where the center stand would mount if it had one. And I'm going to put the trolley jack, that one, under there with a block of wood. So that'll lift the back end off the ground. And this kind of double padded jack will go at the front, right about here. And I'll have to put a couple of shims on each side of the engine. The engine itself has kind of got a boat-shaped bottom to it, so I need to kind of shim it with some wood on each side so it'll lift straight. And then for extra safety, I'm going to take these 2 axle stands, and I'm going to position them under here on each side. I'll put some rags over them so they don't scratch the engine bars, but I'm going to put those on each side so then the bike can't kind of tip. So each time I lift the bike up more at the front, I'll raise the axle stand in the, so the height of those will go up. And then once I've got enough height to get the wheels out, I can kind of have the weight bearing a little bit on the engine stands, as well as keeping some of the weight on here, so, and the back. So kind of distribute the weight of the bike across 2 jacks, 2 axle stands, and then that should also be fairly stable, or should be very stable. I've seen guys do it on the forums. And then the other thing I'm going to do at the same time is there'll be tie downs to the usual spots here to give it some extra stability, and I will also very likely tie down from the back those hand grab bars. I'll tie those down to the bottom corner of the lift as well, so then the bike is stable and it's not gonna want to fall over. Again, healthy paranoia. I can't remember what the bike weighs. It's got to be close to 800 pounds or more. And with that amount of weight, I just want to make sure that this is stable. So the other thing that I'm going to do, again, from a safety perspective, is when I crack those wheel nuts, I'm going to do that before I jack the bike up. They're not going to come right off, of course. I'm just going to crack them a little loose. And same with the front fork pinch bolts and the front axle. I just want to crack everything loose, not so it's flopping around, but just so what I don't want to be doing is I don't want to be reefing on this thing, breaking torqued nuts and bolts loose when the bike is, you know, a foot or more in the air. That's just not a good recipe for safety. So break everything loose that I need to do ahead of time, then get the bike jacked up, and then pulling the wheels off becomes a much easier exercise. So, and in amongst all that, of course, front brake calipers will be coming off at the same time, so they'll get removed before I get, or at least cracked off before I get too excited about lifting the bike up in the air. All right, so here's the slightly convoluted setup. As I said, the trolley jack with a block of wood on the rear center stand, mounting lugs right there. That should take care of lifting the back end. And the way I've got this set up at the front is there's the I've got a couple of blocks of plywood positioned under there to take some of the load. So hopefully that is sufficient to bring the front end up safely. On this left-hand side over here, I just have to be careful that the jack is positioned such that it doesn't touch the oil filter there. I don't need to rip that off in the process. I mean, it will be coming off shortly for an oil change, but no point in buggering that up in the process. And then this is how I see kind of the axle stands taking shape. So as basically as the bike gets jacked up, I'll just continue to move this up one step at a time, and that should allow for some additional support and safety and whatnot. Okay, so a slight change of plans, I think. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to use that drop tail with this configuration because I need the extra width. I put these extra side panels on so that I can mount my jacks and my axle stands outboard of the main platform. Unfortunately, what that means is there's a support bar, you can see it right there, runs through, it runs right through that drop tail panel, because normally when you're using these extensions on each side, it's for an ATV or a snowmobile or what have you, and they're not expecting you to use it with the drop tail. And if I remove that bar, which I could remove to then activate that drop tail, then I've got everything from here, from this support bar, everything from here back on this extension is unsupported, and I cannot have that flexing down with the weight of that jack on there. So in that case, I am going to have to just kind of lift the bike high enough, exactly where it is, to clear, to be able to get that rear wheel out. Obviously there's guys that have done this plenty of times with the bike kind of mounted on the ground, not on a lift, so it really doesn't make any difference. And then the other thing I'll have to do in that case, in order to get the front wheel out when it's in the air, I'll just have to take this this kind of bumper plate out, this wheel stop plate out of here, just unbolts those two bolts down at the bottom. And actually that might make it a little bit safer. Leaving the wheel in the chalk, just take that stopper plate out. Yeah, that might work actually a little bit better from a setup and safety perspective. Unfortunate, I can't use that drop tail, but the setup as it is now will be the same as if I was doing this kind of right on the ground. So here are the tires. Bridgestone Battle Cruise H50. And that's the front tire, and then the rear tire. And then I've also got some Dyna beads here, because sometimes it's hard to get the single-sided swing arms mounted, the wheels mounted on some of those balancers, because unless you've got the special hub inserts for those, and I'm not sure if my guy has them or not. He might have them. So I know he was able to balance my VFR 800 wheels, which are similar, when I had that bike. But just in case he can't, I do have some Dyna beads there as well, which maybe is better anyway, then you don't have the ugly wheel weights on there. Anyway, that's the pair that are going on. The other idea that I had, which I'm kind of lukewarm on, is to be able to activate that drop tail by removing that bar right there that runs across. This one, you know, I could potentially block up the lift on this side if I was to kind of block it up here. But I'm kind of hesitant to do that, just because, I mean, would it be safe? Probably, but I don't know. You know, blocking up the lift and jacking up the bike, it's already kind of sketchier than I would like it to be as it is. So I think just adding more stuff like that to the equation is just makes me more uncomfortable with an already uncomfortable situation as it is. So I mean, I wish there was an easier way to do this, but there really isn't. This is about the safest way that I can think of doing it, or that I've even seen done by guys who have the same bike. And you know, these tie downs may have to be altered as well. I think I'm going to end up coming down to the side and hooking underneath the bottom there to give it better kind of lateral support from tipping this way. Right now it's kind of pulling the bike forward into the chalk. So once I take that plate off the front, those are they have to come off to be able to lift the bike up anyway, and then when I retie, I'll probably come down to the side. It'll be safer that way. All right, so time has come to lift this up in the air and get the wheels off. So I'm going to time lapse most of this, and maybe I'll interject with a few commentaries as I go. But basically, I've already loosened off the bolts, nuts on the rear wheel, and I'm going to break free the calipers, get them off, and the pinch bolts on the front axle, and all that kind of good stuff around here before I get to the process of lifting it. As I said before, I don't want to be wrestling with breaking bolts loose with the bike balanced in the air. That just seems unnecessary. So I'm going to get all that stuff done ahead of time, and then we'll get it jacked up, see how that goes. All right, so all I've done so far is I've loosened the pinch bolts here, removed the axle bolt. It's right in there. I removed the calipers, and I just use a piece of cedar shim just to keep the pads in place, and that way they don't, even if somebody accidentally touches that lever, it's not going to be a problem. It actually will force the pads apart a little bit as well, and it makes it easier to reinstall them. All I've done here, again, probably unnecessary, but my normal paranoid self, what I've done is this piece of tape, actually I doubled it up on this side so there's no sticky adhesive against the sensor, for the speed sensor on the front wheel, and I just put that in there just to protect the face of the sensor from when I remove the wheel. Just in case that ring comes in contact with it, it will protect it. Unnecessary potentially, but you know, it takes a couple of seconds, so why not do it? And the pinch bolts on this side are now loosened as well. So effectively, once I take the weight off the wheel a little bit, I'll just make sure that I can pull this axle out. I might need to tap it out from the other side. So yeah, and then of course when these bolts go back in for the calipers, I'll have to put a dab of Loctite back on there as well. So I think the next step is we'll start, actually I think what I'm going to do is take this wheel stopper off the front of the lift, so that when the wheel and everything comes up off the ground, it should make it a little easier to get that wheel out. So, all right, so first step, we've started to get this thing off the ground. As I've been moving it up a bit each time, I'm kind of increasing the height of the jack stands, and they will not go much further. And I'm also trying to make sure that I kind of keep everything at the same pace with the two jacks. So this one's tending to take the majority of the load, and I'm just kind of supporting a little bit at the back with that one. So I think the next step is, before I get too high, I'm going to maybe I'll just tighten the ratchet straps down a little bit, take a bit of the load there, and then see if there's enough room front or back to get any of those wheels off yet. I think I might have to go higher, but we'll see. Maybe I'll do some measurements first just to get an estimate, because I don't want to get the wheel half out and then find out I haven't got enough room, and then that would not be good either. So I'll try maybe go a little bit higher first. Pretty scary. I don't know if you could tell from the time lapse, but the bike was starting to list pretty badly over to the right side there. Not sure why. I guess there wasn't enough shimming, I don't think, on this side of the jack. So I'm gonna have to try to rectify that. Now I've got the front wheel out of the forks, but I can't get it past the chalk. Even with it loosened right off, it just is kind of jammed in there. It won't come loose, because unfortunately the scissor jack, as it lifts, as it comes up, it also kind of pulls back a little bit. So unfortunately what that means is it's kind of shifted the bike over in this direction. So I think in hindsight, putting this on the lift table to do it was not a good idea, except for the fact that I was able to use a ratchet straps, especially on that other side, to stop the bike leaning so badly over. It was leaning so far that I was actually afraid it was gonna fall. So I think I'm gonna have to unbolt the wheel chock from the other side to get that wheel out. Okay, by far the sketchiest thing I've ever done with a bike. For some reason, somehow, this main jack here started to lower. Thankfully, I had the jack stands underneath it. I don't know why I did that. If I hit the release pedal by accident, but I went down to the other shop to get some more ratchet straps, and I came back and the bike again was kind of listing over. Maybe we'll see that in the time lapse as that jack went down. This is not a lot of fun, I gotta tell you. So now, although I had cracked off these rear wheel nuts, it's gonna be the next pain in the neck piece to get this wheel out, and hopefully it's up high enough, because I really don't want to take this bike any higher than it already is. So this is, I'm hoping I can just kind of lay the wheel down as I bring it out here, and I'll have to cover it, but I'm not so sure it's going to work. Good grief. All right, so here's what we're gonna do now that those wheels are out of there. I'm gonna tighten this guy back up. So I just don't want any opportunity for this to topple in any particular direction. Is this tight now? See, this one is not tight now either. What I want to do is I want to get it so the jack kind of sits into one of these locking teeth here, and I also would like to get a little bit more weight onto the jack stands themselves. So that. When it comes to a 800-pound motorcycle, it'd be nice if I could put something under here for an additional safety precaution, but I'm not sure that it's going to clear this. Let's see how level the bike is. I wish I had taken some video of the bike when it was kind of leaning over. It's level now, thanks to the fact that it's just kind of strapped down. But yeah, boy oh boy, that was I mean, it was leaning quite a ways this way. I'd be interested to see the speed up footage of the time lapse to see if we could see that thing just starting to lean. The different guys on the forum have done it differently. Some people have done it this way and had success, and okay, I guess we could call this success. But I think I thought the way that I had this main jack shimmed there would be good, because it's very evenly shimmed. These are all tight in here, and it's kind of this is one level of wood, and then I've got wood on each side of this lower piece here, but it still wanted to kind of rock this way as I jacked it up, and maybe that was because back here, you see way back there, those blocks, they're kind of sitting on that center part of the engine, but there's no support on the outboard area because it's kind of got an angle like a boat. The engine is kind of this kind of shape here. So when I tried to put wood in there, it really wasn't helping me a whole lot with any support. It would just kind of slip out. And what some of the guys have done is make a plywood base with wood shims kind of screwed onto that, and it's provided a much more stable platform. So in hindsight, I think that approach is better than this approach, and potentially then you can actually get away with only using the one jack. You can basically move that back so that the left hand leg of this jack here is kind of approximated to the area of that rear kickstand, or the rear center stand lugs there, and you don't need that other jack. So yeah, that's kind of my thought on it at this point. But you know, it's up in the air, the wheels are off, so from that perspective, it's okay. All right, so there's my third jack. I couldn't get it close enough to go under the rear linkage, but I could get a block of wood under the swing arm itself. My paranoia in this particular case, I think, is well deserved, given the I can't believe how that thing was leaning. It was awful. But I think you know, the thing that saved the day in that case was those axle stands. I'm moving these up at each stage of the lift, just so that, I mean, it could only go so far that way. So certainly, whoever came up with that idea, it wasn't mine, was right on the money. Definitely a good safety measure, safety precaution there. So one last look here before we fast forward to some point tomorrow when I get the wheels and tires back, and yeah, we can get that thing mounted and back on its own two wheels. I'm really not looking forward to you know, the reverse process very much. Scaring the bejeebers out of me. All right, new rubber is on. So we'll get to remounting all this stuff. All right, so back wheel is on. I just kind of rechecked all of the jacks and the blocking and whatnot before I start monkeying around with the front wheel. So here goes with that. So I gotta set the torque wrench up here to 44 foot-pounds for this axle bolt. That's 41, 2, 3, 4. There we go. So on this one, it's going to be 22 Newton meters for the pinch bolts. With these, anything into aluminum, I'm always a little bit cautious, so I'd rather kind of tweak them up by hand so I know they're pretty close, and then work my way up to the designated foot-pounds. Again, when I'm snugging these up, I don't grab the bottom of the ratchet. I kind of grab the head of the ratchet, because there's no need for putting ridiculous amounts of torque on these and less chance of stripping them. Okay, 22. So yeah, I just feel way better about starting off by hand and then creeping up on it a little bit at a time. It's 22. I mean, there we go. All good. Got some fresh thread locker on these. Let's get most of the way with a ratchet, and then we'll do the torque at the end. Good. All right, so the wheels are back on. The front, everything is kind of torqued down, so that was fairly simple to do with the wheel in the air. The rear wheel, however, I have not yet torqued. They're snugged down, I'll call it, but they're not yet torqued. I'm going to wait till that is on the ground, and then I can use the rear brake to lock the wheel and get those nuts to the proper torque. But yeah, we'll wait for tomorrow morning until I have a free set of hands from my son to give me a hand putting this thing back down on the ground. No point in getting overly hurried, as I said, given the 2 near misses I had yesterday. I'd rather have an extra pair of hands and another set of eyes here when I let this down. All right, so the Valkyrie is off the lift. So it was, yeah, that was a sketchy process. I may look into getting a rear, a center stand for this. They never came with them. In the parts fiche for the Valkyrie, there isn't even one listed there, but one from the Goldwing will fit. The downside, I guess, is it takes a few more parts than just the stand. You have to actually change this section of the exhaust pipe. So this is a chrome cover on the pipe, and the one I need, which also is off a Goldwing, has an indentation in it to clear the foot lever for the center stand. So I have to change that out. The stand obviously would need springs and hooks and bolts and whatnot, so we'll take a look on eBay, see what I can find there, and maybe for the next time that would be a better way to go. I really did not enjoy that process at all, but new tires are on. I do have to double check the tire pressures, because sometimes when they seat the new tires, they kind of overinflate them, and sometimes they forget to put them back to the right pressure. So I got to check the tire pressures, and then I also have to just make sure that I don't have any issues with the front fork sticking. So I have to loosen off one set of pinch bolts there and just make sure that those forks are going to glide properly before I hit the road. Anyway, so there we go. New tires on. Looking forward to trying that out. But anyway, so there we go. Thanks for watching. We narrowly avoided disaster twice in this video, but you know, avoided disaster is the key phrase there. So thankfully, with axle stands in place and whatnot, all the appropriate safety measures, that kind of saved the day. I think if I hadn't had those axle stands underneath the engine guards, this could have ended in tears. So yeah, I would think hard and long about the process that you want to use. Certainly, I would recommend, if you do something like I did, make sure you got another set of hands with you. That I think that would have been much wiser on my part to have, you know, my son here when I put it up as well as when I took it down. It would just have been a whole lot less sketchy for sure. So anyway, enjoy the videos, and we'll talk to you soon. Please subscribe, like, share, and we'll talk to you next time.